Welcome back to Truth in Time. If you joined us for part 1, you know the broad outlines. A seaworthy ship, intact supplies, and an abandoned deck with no crew in sight. In part 2, we deepen the inquiry, exploring the crew's backgrounds, the legal and financial consequences that followed, the evolving theories, later experiments, and how the story became woven into literature and maritime lore. Let's begin with the people. Captain Benjamin Briggs was more than a neat name in a shipping register. He came from a life tied to the sea, earning respect for his seamanship and character. His wife Sarah, who chose to accompany him on a commercial voyage, and their little daughter Sophia, add human poignancy to the tale. Accounts from acquaintances portray Briggs as meticulous and conservative, the sort of commander who would not lightly abandon a vessel. The 7 crewmen, whose names appear in various records, were professional mariners with previous service and reputations that do not suggest mutiny or discontent. That this particular crew disappeared raises emotional stakes beyond a mere salvage story. At Gibraltar, the salvage inquiry unfolded with legal precision. Admiralty law required careful cataloging of the ship's condition and property. Lawyers, insurers, and naval officers parsed the facts for months. A salvage award was set, but the court-s detailed notes, some of which remain accessible in maritime archives, documented anomalies that rang odd to investigators. Personal items undisturbed. Coherent charts stowed away, and the missing lifeboat. Testimonies by the Dei Gratia crew became part of public record, and some later claimed to have seen odd evidence, though their accounts sometimes contradicted each other under scrutiny. Insurance matters complicated matters further. Ship owners and underwriters had much at stake. The cargo belonged to commercial interests who sought compensation. Theories about why the crew abandoned ship could affect liability and insurance claims. Suspicions of intentional abandonment for insurance fraud have been leveled at other vessels in maritime history, sometimes valid, sometimes not. In this case, however, there is little hard evidence to suggest deliberate fraud by Captain Briggs or his crew. Their reputations and a lack of missing cargo weakened that scenario. The press played a pivotal role in shaping public perception. Papers eager for readers highlighted the eerie aspects: an infant's presence on an abandoned ship, a lifeboat gone, a log that ceased entries days beforehand. Sensationalism met maritime curiosity. A public hungry for drama accepted more fantastic explanations than more sober observers. Authors and playwrights quickly took liberties, and the Mary Celeste became a subject in newspapers, magazines, and fiction that continued to embellish the tale. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, more systematic attempts to test possible explanations emerged. Experimenters simulated deck conditions to see how alcohol vapors might spread, how leaks could be mistaken for imminent danger, and how panic could lead to temporary evacuation. These reconstructions suggested that a plausible scenario exists. A captain worried about an evaporating flammable cargo might have ordered a temporary evacuation. The crew, in a small open boat and separated from the ship in rough waters, could have succumbed to exposure or become lost despite the Mary Celeste herself remaining serviceable. Still, experiments cannot replace the missing testimony of those who boarded or those who abandoned ship. Other scientific and archival paths widened the conversation. Oceanographers studied currents and drift patterns to map likely routes and determine how the lifeboat might have been swept away. Weather records from contemporary ships provide context about storms and squalls in the months around the discovery. Historians combed through shipping manifests, crew lists, and port records to construct detailed timelines. Each discipline contributed a fragment, but the mosaic never quite resolved into a single image. A provocative, though contested theory argues human error in navigation. If the captain misread his position and believed land lay dangerously close, he might have ordered an urgent abandonment, only to realize later that the ship was not in immediate peril. Navigation in the 19th century relied on chronometers, sextants, and celestial observation. Clouds, instrument error, or human fatigue could produce miscalculations. Such a misjudgment could explain a temporary evacuation that turned fatal for those in the lifeboat. Cultural treatments further amplified the mystery. Arthur Conan Doyle, the author best known for Sherlock Holmes, wrote a fictionalized account that mixed fact and invention. Doyle's tale helped turn the Mary Celeste from maritime oddity into a gothic emblem. Other writers and filmmakers later drew on the motif of the ghost ship as a metaphor. Human hubris, the sea's indifference, and a thin line between order and chaos. The ship's later service years are a quieter coda to the famous episode. Different owners bought the Mary Celeste, and she continued to ply trade routes. But superstition stuck. Crews reluctant to serve aboard the vessel, rumors of bad luck, and occasional mechanical troubles accrued. The ship's final loss in 1885 near Haiti, a wrecked hull after an insurance claim attempt by a later captain, concluded her physical story, but not her legend. The original mystery remained the chapter that history could not close. Why does this matter beyond the romance of a riddle? The Mary Celeste offers lessons in how societies construct meaning from gaps. We see how an event with incomplete data creates a narrative vacuum that is quickly filled by media, myth, and imagination. The case also reminds us that maritime life involved risks that modern viewers often underestimate. Sudden weather, volatile cargoes, and the isolation of crews far from rescue. The human element, families choosing seafaring life, communities dependent on trade, is central to any honest retelling. In contemporary times, the Mary Celeste continues to be studied by amateur sleuths and professional historians alike. New archival finds, letters, port records, or private logs occasionally illuminate small corners of the story. Modern reconstructions use computer simulation to model how barrels shift, how fumes disperse, and how lifeboats might drift. And these techniques narrow plausible scenarios but rarely produce certainty. Perhaps that is the most enduring element of the Mary Celeste story. It resists tidy closure. Some mysteries end when evidence is recovered. Others persist because the sea preserves only fragments and erases so much. The missing 10, Briggs, Sarah, Sophia, and the 7 mariners, remain absent from the historical record in a way that refuses the finality of official closure. Yet in the absence of resolution, the case still yields value. It teaches caution in drawing sensational conclusions from limited evidence. It invites empathy for those who vanish from the record. It encourages interdisciplinary inquiry, combining maritime history, forensic reconstruction, meteorology, and cultural analysis. And it reminds us that human stories, even when incomplete, illuminate the complex interplay of technology, environment, and decision under pressure. So what do you believe happened to the Mary Celeste? Was it a tragic evacuation due to fumes, a navigational error that turned temporary shelter into permanent loss, or some combination of natural and human factors? Or do you think a simpler answer remains hidden somewhere in the archives? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing how audiences stitch together history from the threads we offer. If you enjoyed this 2-part voyage into one of maritime history's greatest puzzles, please like this video and subscribe to Truth in Time for more careful, compassionate explorations of the past. We'll bring new episodes that examine disasters, mysteries, and the human stories behind them. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep the memory of the past alive.